Hello and welcome to this tutorial for the game CloudAge. I'm happy to teach you this game, not just because I think it's very good, but also because the rulebook is a bit confusing. I'll be explaining it for your first play. Once you've played it, check the rulebook for how you should play the game next time in the future, because you'll be adding a few things to make it more complicated and interesting. Every player has these little cubes on their own player board. During every round you place one of yours on the board. As soon as there are no more cubes on your board at the end of the round, the game is over. Whoever has the most points wins the game. You get some of your points during the game, and some points when the game is over. I'll explain the bonus scoring later, but for now, you keep playing until there are no more cubes on the board, and then the game is over. If you have the most points, you are the winner. First, I'll explain what a round is. You can see the whole round on the bottom of your own player board, here. I'll tell you quickly and then go into detail a bit more. Each round is this. Pass the first player token to the player to the left. Then, check if you're allowed to do the action that is written on this card that shows a book on it. Next comes produce, where you pay energy to get water. Then you take two cards from your own deck. They will show you if you get more and how many spaces you get to move this round. This next section is about traveling on the main board. First, in player order, you get to move your ship, and then maybe have a little combat to get a reward. And finally, you place your little cube on the main board. This last section is where every player gets to do one action, and then the round is over. So again, pass the first player token, check if you can do the special action on the card, get water, draw cards to see if you get more and how far you get to move. Part 2 is move your ship, maybe fight, and place your little cube on the board. And end the round by each taking one action. Let me explain that again, but a bit more into detail. Passing the first player token is easy. Then comes the action with the book. No matter what type of game you play, there will always be a card on the table that shows a little book on it and an action. This one says that you have to pay 2 water, and then you get 2 points. So, when are you allowed to do this? If you look at your own board, you can see your little cubes, and in some places there's a book in between them. If there is an empty space on the left side of the book and a cube on the right side of the book, every player is allowed to do this action from the book card. That's it. Just a little extra thing you get to do during a round sometimes. Moving on. Production. For that, you have to look at this board, the production board. As you can see, my token is on space 3 of this track. When I went from 2 to 3, I was allowed to take 2 cards from this deck as a one-time bonus. These are project cards. But whenever the part of the round comes that is production, I can do what it says here. In this case, it says I have to pay 2 energy, and that will give me 3 water and 1 point. If I want to do that, I slide my energy marker down 2 spaces, and then I take 3 water tokens from the supply and move myself up 1 point on the scoring track. But if I don't want to do this, I don't have to. And it gets even better. I'm on space 3 of the track, but I'm also always allowed to do whatever it says on a lower space on the board. For example, I might be here on space 3, but I can say I instead only pay 1 energy to take 2 water tokens. That's it for the production phase. If you want, you can pay energy to take water and maybe points. Don't forget that every player does this, not just the first player. The last part of this section in the round is this. Take 2 cards from your own deck. This one. Just flip them over and place them so everyone can see. And this is also something that every player does, not just you. I flipped over a card with a 1 and a card with a 3. You first deal with the card that has the lowest number. In my case, that's a 1. Now I can choose if I want to get 1 energy or take 1 card from this deck, the project cards. It's up to me. I choose to take energy, so I slide my energy marker up 1 space on my own track here. Then this card can go on my discard pile. And the card with the number 3 can immediately go on top of that, because now this section of the round is over and we go to the next section, which is about moving on the main board. My highest card was this one with the number 3. That means I get to move my airship 3 spaces on the main board. Plus, if I want to, I can move 1 extra step by using power from my solar panel on my board here. If I don't use it, I get to take 2 energy. It says so on your board. Use this as 1 extra move or get 2 energy. When you move, you take your little airship and relocate it, of course. But there are some rules for that. The most important one is that you must always end your movement on a city. Those are these spaces under the clouds. If you don't have enough moves to make it to the next city, you have to stay where you are. Next, you are allowed to move on the same space as another player, but you can't end there. Also, whenever you move on one of these spaces that isn't a city, but show some sort of resource, you immediately get to take that bonus. But some of those spaces show little arrows on it. That means stepping onto those spaces costs you extra movement. This one, for example, shows 2 little arrows. That means it costs 2 moves instead of 1. I can move 3 and I have to end in a city, so that would be 1, 2, 3. And I get to take this bonus. But that's already it for moving. And now, if I want to, I can choose to pick a fight in this city. This one says I need to have a combat power of at least 1. Then I win the fight and I get to take this reward. Right now I have 0 power. My weapons are still not built. Those are these things that I can upgrade and flip over later. And there are also cards that add combat power. But for now, I have nothing. I could choose not to fight and then never get this bonus. But there is another way to get some power. That goes like this. Pay 1 energy and then flip over the top card of your deck. It's a 2. So now I have 2 combat power. It's enough to win the fight, so I take my reward. But it was possible that I flipped over a card with a 0. In that case, I wouldn't have won, and I could have kept trying. But in that case, every next card you want to flip over will cost you either 2 energy, or you have to discard 3 of these project cards from your hand. In any case, whether you won the fight, or you lost the fight, or you chose to not even have a fight, you take your little cube that is the leftmost side on your own player board and place it on the space where your little airship is. Now you can see you have been in this city and you can never have a fight again, so can't even get the reward again. And that's also it for this movement phase. Move your ship, you must end in a city, and then you can choose to fight, but at the end you always drop your little cube here. Then the final part of the round. In player order, every player gets to participate a little in the action that the other player chooses. So you get to do multiple actions each round. You have 2 things you can choose from. When you've played this game at least once, then in the future you can do 3 actions. But you can look that up in the rulebook because you'll understand the game well enough anyway. So, what do you do when it's your turn? As I said, you can choose between 2 things. One is building something, and the other is getting this card that gives you resources, and then you can add the card to your deck. Let's start with building. When it's your turn, you place your little drone on this space. Then you can build 2 things. You can either pay resources to add an upgrade to your player board, or you can pay resources to get whatever it says on the project cards that you have in your hand. The price is always in red. And if you want, you can build 2 upgrades or 2 cards, or 1 upgrade and 1 card. It's up to you. When you do an upgrade, you can go for extra movement here on the left, or extra weapons on the top. You must always do the cheapest upgrade first. Just pay the price and then you can flip over this puzzle piece. It also shows this gray number. That is bonus points at the end of the game. Or, when you build a card, you pay the price and take whatever it says on the card. The cards will speak for themselves, and then you place the card under your player board in the section that has the same color on the card. So that's one thing you can do when it's your turn. Place your drone here and build up to 2 things. There are 2 rules for that. As soon as you've had your turn, every other player gets to build 1 thing. That is still part of your turn. First, you get to build 2 things, and then the other players can build 1 thing. And the last rule on that is that you can choose to pass on building something. Then you can take 1 resource of your choice. So, for example, when it's your turn, you can choose to build. You can first pass to take a resource, and then for your second one, build something using the resource you just took. Moving on, the other thing that you can do when it's your turn is choose one of these cards. First pick which one of the three you want, and then place your drone on one of these four spaces: energy, water, metal, or a project card. Whatever you choose, that is what you'll get. And then every other player also gets to put their drone on one of the other spaces. When every drone is in place, slide the card out of the sleeve and see who gets what. To begin with, if there's this green icon with a number here, only you get to take this much water from the supply. But that's only for this very first game. And then you look at the middle. Whoever chose energy gets this much energy, whoever chose water gets this much water, and so on. And whoever chose the resource that shows this little wrench on the card gets to take one extra resource of choice. And whoever chose the resource that shows this little symbol on it gets to permanently remove one card from their discard pile. This one. If you know there's a 0 in here, you definitely want it out of the game. But that's it. When it's your turn, you can either choose to build or choose one of these cards. Other players get to go along in whatever you choose. When a player has had their own turn, when every player's had their own turn, the round is over and you start the next one. Also, at the end of every turn, move the drone pieces back to here, so every space is free for the next player. If there is no next round, because there are no more little cubes to place on the board, the game is over. As I said, there is a little bonus scoring. That goes like this. When the game is over, this is what happens. First, every player gets to produce. That's the thing you do at the beginning of each round with this board. Pay energy to get water and maybe points. Then, every player gets to build 2 things. After that, look at all the points you get from these gray points. They'll be on your upgrades and on your cards. Count them up and score them. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Don't forget, next time you play this, the setup will be different and you'll have one more thing to choose from during the action phase. Look it up in the rulebook. For now, I hope you have a good comprehension of how this game is played and that you'll enjoy it. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Feel free to leave a comment and see you for the next one.